Hey everybody, welcome back to the Chaotic Little Book Corner. My name's Acacia. Today I'm going to be doing my May wrap-up part 1. I've read 19 books so far and I want to talk about them, but I want to talk about them in a little more of a cohesive way versus just a rush. And so I want to do some of them now and then some of them later. So I'm going to do 14 of them today, and then I'm going to do a top 5 of the month later, and then I'm also going to do whatever I read following this as well. So you're going to get like 3 videos talking about what I read this month, and we'll see how you guys like that style. Just feel free to give me feedback. I am open to it. So we're going to go in order of least to most enjoyed, but I'm going to hold off on showing you my top 5 books of the month until another video. So you will see almost my favorite books of what I enjoyed this month so far in this video. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is Shirley Jackson, Dark Tales. I remember none of these stories. And I read this earlier in the month. I think I read this during the Dewey's 24-hour readathon. Or I started it during the Dewey's 24 hours readathon. I didn't finish it then, but I started it then. And then I finished it in May. And nothing stuck. Nothing felt like, you know, really interesting to me. Nothing really felt gelled with me. It was a good collection. I enjoyed it. I remember getting a little spooked and feeling a little bit uncomfortable, but I couldn't tell you what most of these stories were about if I tried. So there's that. Then we have Folk by Zooey Gilbert. This, as everyone has said on their channel, is a short story collection that all lives in one world, and it's all connected, and it's folktale-y, and it's mythical, and it's written really nice, but it was advertised as a novel, and it was not really 100% held together, and some of the stories were beautiful, some of the stories were mediocre, and it felt kind of sad to like have this opportunity to write something really fantastic. The premise is brilliant. It's about a place called Neverness and what happens in this place, and the experiences of the people in the town and what they're living like and all of that. Just kind of a glimpse into this world. And it was such a great idea, and I just wish it had been executed better. Like, it was fine, but I wouldn't say that it was like my favorite thing ever, and I also wouldn't say that I recommend it 100%. I'm gonna keep it on my shelf and probably reread it because there were some parts that I found really pretty and really enjoyed, but as far as like an overall thing, just no. Then we have Shirley Jackson, author of Raising Demons, which is her first nonfiction. I read them out of order. This is Life Among the Savages, and it is Shirley Jackson's memoir talking about her life and the chaos of having 3 children, and her experience as a mother, and her experience as a wife, and her experience as a writer, and living life in this kind of chaotic world. It's very vignette-y in that you kind of are getting glimpses and snapshots into her world, and I enjoyed it. It was really well done. It was well crafted. It just wasn't the Shirley Jackson I'm used to, and it wasn't this dark, twisted thing that I love so much about Shirley Jackson. So I was just left feeling like it wasn't Shirley Jackson who I loved. It was just a glimpse of Shirley Jackson's life. I enjoy it. I definitely will keep it because I love Shirley Jackson and I really appreciate what it did. And my guess is upon a reread, knowing what I'm going into, I'll feel more at home with it. But this time around, I was not 100% in. R is for Rebel by J. Anderson Coates. This is a story about a land where a group of people have come in and taken over a community, and they are now forcing these children to go to a school to be re-educated to reinforce that the people that have taken over their country are good and here to help and really there to enforce happiness and, you know, health. And this is a story of a young girl who is rebelling against that idea. Now, I wanted to like this a lot more than I did. I felt it was whitewashed. It really reminds me of the Re-Education Act that we instilled with Native Americans, and it really upset me that it was a completely white cast of characters. Some characters are not identified as white or any other color, so I guess you could read them as characters of color, but I didn't feel like diversity was really given in this book in a place where it was really kind of more of a diverse story than was let on, and I was really disappointed in it. But it ends in a really different way than I was expecting. It goes to places I wasn't expecting, and it really did some things that I was really shocked by. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was okay, but it was whitewashed. Beloved by Toni Morrison. I respect this book immensely. I feel as if this story is one that I've read people giving nods to repetitively in my very current time. Like, I feel like a lot of books I've read have given nods to this, and I'm going to do a video talking about that. So if you don't know what this book is about, this is about a woman named Seath who escapes from slavery and comes to a new home with her mother-in-law and her 3 children while pregnant, and she has escaped slavery, and her child, the youngest that is alive, dies for some reason. And after that death, her family becomes haunted by this child that died. And the story progresses from there. I really admire this book. I think it's a really interesting slave narrative. I think it's a really beautifully written book. I really went into it excited for it, but then I really didn't like it at first, and I really wasn't into it, but by the end I really liked it and I felt much better about it. But because of the beginning and how unhappy I was with the beginning, I can't really give it that high of a rating, just because it wouldn't be fair to like give a rating to something that had me at a distance for so long, and it took a realization for me to feel completely at ease with the book and to feel like I wanted to continue reading. I read this as a buddy read with Amanda Center, whose channel I will link up in the cards. We had a really good conversation about this, so I really enjoyed it. Then we have Junk by Tommy Paco. I met Tommy and got to see a reading of his, and he was incredible. Absolutely incredible. I was blown away by his reading. I felt completely immersed in it, and I felt completely at ease with it. The book itself, I had given 3 stars because I read it before I went and saw him perform the book. But once I saw him read it and I heard how it flowed coming from him, I would say that this book is so much more of a performance piece than it is just something that you can read cover to cover. It really requires some intense insight and reflection and honoring, and it's just brilliant, and I really adored it. And I think that this story is it's fabulous. It didn't thrill me upon first read, but now that I've heard him read, I'm going to read it with his voice in mind, and I think I'm going to get a lot more out of it. I asked him if there was anything he would like me to tell my subscribers, and his request is that I tell you he's single. So that is his one thing he wants you to know, is he's single. So depending on when you view this video and the date of that, he may still be single. So yes. Then I reread Oryx and Crake by Margaret Atwood. I read this for the first time with Brittany from Under the Radar books, and then this is my second time reading it, and I bought the sequels. So I bought The Year of the Flood and Mad Adam. I bought both of the sequels, so I'm gonna read the trilogy in all now, and see if I get more out of it. I still gave Oryx and Crake itself 3 stars. The premise is it's a post-apocalyptic world. Something has wiped out humanity, and now there are these human prototypes around, and they are curious about the before time and talking to a man named Snowman, formerly called Jimmy, and he is trying to survive in this post-apocalyptic world as one of the only humans left. And yeah, it's really interesting. It's really well done. I definitely enjoy it. It didn't wow me. I didn't feel wowed, and I wanted to feel wowed, especially because I read this after a book hangover occurred from reading The Handmaid's Tale. So, it didn't do exactly what I wanted it to do. But I've heard that it gets better in the series, so we shall see. Then I read Mr. Flood's Last Resort by Jess Kidd, who in the UK calls this The Hoarder. I personally think The Hoarder was a better title for it, but I can understand the title that they've given it here. I just think that The Hoarder is a better title for it. So this is the story of a man who is hoarding things, and this woman comes in and she starts to clean out his world and try and support him and get him prepared to go to a home, but he is determined to not go to a home, so she tries to help him survive this situation where his son is trying to force him into a home. There is some magical realism, there is some psyche, and there is some interesting twists and turns along the way. It was good. It was fine. I enjoyed it. I just would say that for me, I wanted more depth into Mr. Flood's hoarding and what his thought process was. Then we have Robin, which I've done a full in-depth review of. I will link it in the cards up above. Great book, really wonderful. If you like Robin Williams, I would pick this up. If you're also interested in a biography of someone who had a really big effect on your childhood, this is a good one to go for. Then we have... Then we have Our Kind of Cruelty by Aramita Hall. This one is a stalker story, and it follows a man named Mike who is in love with a woman named V, and V has turned him down from a relationship they had prior, and he is now becoming obsessed with her and trying to live his life according to what V would want because he believes she's coming back. And the story progresses from the day that he gets the wedding invitation to V and her new fiance's wedding. And it is creepy and twisted and interesting, and to see inside the mind of a stalker is really dark and really interesting. I can't say that I fully grasp or understand the logic of a stalker, but I can sympathize with him, which is really weird to say because in my mind I'm like, no, what he's doing is wrong. It's completely wrong. It's unethical. But I totally can see his mindset and I can totally validate what he's thinking. So that left me feeling completely uncomfortable in a really good way. I'll be doing a full in-depth review of this because I was sent it for review by FSG and I'm very, very grateful. Then we have Then we have The Female Persuasion by Meg Wolitzer. This one was great to read, and I really am happy I read this one before the Interestings. I'm going to read the Interestings very soon. I really enjoyed Meg Wolitzer's writing. I really thought it was well done and really interesting and, you know, insightful and beautiful, and I really wish that I had gotten onto the Meg Wolitzer train sooner, but I really enjoyed this. So this follows a college student named Greer who meets a woman named Faith, who is this charismatic, dazzling, strong female, and she follows her throughout her college life and career, and then after her college life and career, and it's kind of seeing through the eyes of someone who really idolizes someone, what it's like to experience having these ideals about a person and then having those ideals checked and realizing that the person that you thought you were really idolizing was not as perfect as you assumed they were in the first place. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really well executed. I definitely will be reading more Meg Wolitzer. And I definitely appreciated this book, and I'm glad I own it in a hardcover, even though it was quite chunky and very difficult to read. Then I also reread One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. I reread 3 books this month. I definitely enjoy rereading, and I'm kind of letting myself not feel the guilt of it. So that's been good. This is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Casey. So my edition has not many, but a few illustrations in it. And I don't know if that's all of them, but mine does. This is a representation of madness and the experience of madness and the experience of one's life with madness and whether or not it is a life worth experiencing and living with the madness or without the madness. And it talks about lobotomies, and it talks about decisions made by those who are mentally unstable and responses to everyday situations and responses to being locked up in a scenario where they have no control. And there is a scene in this that was really jarring and terrifying and way too much for me, and it felt really scary. Trigger warning for that scene. But overall, I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was brilliantly done. I really thought it was a well-executed book. I definitely enjoyed it. I need to rewatch the film. I haven't watched it in years. But all the characters in this are super interesting to read about and really well fleshed out and really exquisite. I definitely enjoyed it, and I recommend it as a good read if you're interested in mental health. It's a lot to take in. So I am going to stop there. There are 2 other books that I was going to review, but we're already at 21 minutes and I don't really think we need to go over that. So yeah, there will be a part 2 of this wrap up, and then I will also do my top 5 books of the month. And again, let me know your feedback on how you feel about this style of reviewing my books for the month. I look forward to your opinions. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you loved it, click that subscribe button down below. And if you have any questions, comments, or quandaries, go ahead and comment in the comment box. I shall see you all in my next video. Bye.